presented by Soundlibra.com. Explore more titles via the link in the description or at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to Master Your Emotions. Stop reacting, start responding.
It's about building a richer inner life and navigating our daily experiences with more understanding and skill. Before we dive in, just a quick heads up that while we're exploring emotional well-being, this isn't medical advice or a substitute for professional mental health care, so please consult with a professional for your specific needs.
That is an important note. So, back to today. It is episode 1, the emotional landscape, understanding your inner world. Lisa, what exactly are emotions, and why are they so central to mastering them?
At their core, emotions are our body's signals. They're complex experiences that arise in response to our environment, our thoughts, and our interactions. Think of them as sophisticated internal messengers telling us what's going on inside us and how we perceive the world.
Internal messengers. So, they're not just random feelings. They have a purpose. Why do we have emotions?
Their purpose is multifaceted. Historically, emotions helped us survive. Fear signals danger, prompting a fight or flight response. Joy can signal a positive outcome, reinforcing beneficial behaviors. Disgust alerts us to potential harm. They've evolved to guide our actions, communicate our needs to others, and help us form social bonds. Even challenging emotions like sadness or anger serve a purpose, telling us something isn't right or a boundary has been crossed.
So, survival tools, communication tools, and guides for social interaction. When we talk about understanding our inner world, what are we really looking at? Is it just about identifying if we're happy or sad?
It's much deeper than labeling basic emotions. Understanding your inner world means recognizing the spectrum of your emotional experiences. It involves acknowledging the nuances, the difference between frustration and rage, or contentment and elation. It also means understanding why you might be feeling a certain way, what thoughts, events, or situations are contributing to that feeling. It's about developing emotional literacy.
Emotional literacy. It sounds like it requires self-awareness. And for many of us, our default is to react to our emotions rather than understand them. Could you elaborate on that difference, reacting versus responding?
Absolutely. This is the heart of our series. Reacting is typically an automatic, often unconscious, and immediate response to an emotion or a situation. It's driven by instinct, habit, or past conditioning. Think of it like a reflex. If someone says something you don't like, you might immediately snap back before you've even fully processed what was said or how you truly feel. It often leads to regret or escalates conflict.
So, a reaction is impulsive. It happens before you've had a chance to really think.
Exactly. Responding, on the other hand, involves conscious awareness and choice. It means creating a pause between the stimulus, the event or feeling, and your action. In that pause, you can acknowledge your emotion, understand its source, and then choose a course of action that aligns with your values and long-term goals, rather than just your immediate impulse.
That pause is critical, isn't it? It's a buffer between the trigger and the outcome. So, instead of just lashing out, you might ask yourself, why am I feeling this anger? Or what is this feeling actually trying to tell me?
Precisely. It's about moving from being a passenger on an emotional roller coaster to being the one steering the vehicle. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. It's about acknowledging them without letting them dictate your behavior in a way that harms yourself or others. It's about having agency over your inner life.
Agency. That's a powerful word. It suggests control, but a healthy kind of control, not suppression. Why is this distinction between reacting and responding so important for our overall well-being?
Because our reactions, if unchecked, can lead to a lot of negative consequences. They can damage relationships, create stress, lead to poor decision-making, and contribute to feelings of guilt or shame. When we learn to respond, we open the door to more constructive communication, better problem-solving, and a stronger sense of inner peace. We become more resilient. It's the foundation for building mastery over our emotional lives.
It sounds like the first step in mastering our emotions is simply to become aware that they exist, that they have purpose, and that we have a choice in how we engage with them. It's not about eliminating difficult emotions, but about understanding and navigating them skillfully.
That's a perfect summary, Alex. Our emotions are not the enemy. They are valuable information. Learning to read that information accurately, rather than being overwhelmed by it, is the essence of emotional intelligence. This series is designed to equip you with the tools and understanding to do just that.
So, to recap what we've covered in this first episode, we've learned that emotions are our body's internal messengers with a crucial role in survival, communication, and social bonding. Understanding our inner world means developing emotional literacy, recognizing the spectrum of our feelings and their sources. And the key distinction we've introduced is between reacting, which is automatic and impulsive, and responding, which involve a conscious pause and a chosen action. This shift from reaction to response is fundamental to well-being and emotional mastery.
And that sets the stage perfectly for where we're going next.
Indeed. Next time, we'll delve deeper into understanding what specifically triggers these emotional reactions. We'll be exploring decoding your triggers, the keys to unlocking reactions. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Last time we covered understanding your inner emotional world. Now let's tackle decoding your triggers.
That's right, Alex. I think for many of us, the word trigger can sound a bit intense, but understanding it is absolutely key to that shift from reacting to responding that we're aiming for. So, Alex, what exactly is an emotional trigger?
To put it simply, an emotional trigger is anything, an event, a person, a place, a thought, or even a sensation that consistently provokes a strong emotional reaction in us. It's like a key that unlocks a particular emotional response, often one that's deeply ingrained. Think of it as a shortcut to a particular feeling.
So, it's not just something that makes us feel a certain way once, but something that reliably does it again and again?
Precisely. And often, these reactions can feel disproportionate to the situation at hand. You might find yourself feeling intensely angry, sad, anxious, or defensive over something that, on the surface, seems relatively minor. That's a strong clue that a trigger might be at play. These triggers are often rooted in our past experiences, particularly those that were emotionally charged.
Ah, that makes sense. So, if I had a really upsetting experience at school when I was a child, and someone mentioned something similar today, it might bring up that same intense feeling of upset, even if the current situation isn't nearly as bad.
Exactly. You've hit on a really important point. Our past experiences, especially those from childhood, can shape what we react to later in life. Imagine our minds as creating a filing system for emotions and memories. When a new situation mirrors an old, intense feeling, our mind automatically pulls up that old file, and we experience the emotions associated with it. This can happen unconsciously.
That filing cabinet analogy is perfect. It really helps visualize how past events can create these automatic responses. So, how do we start to identify our triggers? Because I imagine many of us don't even realize when we're being triggered.
The first step, and it's a crucial one, is cultivating self-awareness. We need to start paying closer attention to our own emotional responses. Ask yourself, when do I feel myself becoming overwhelmed by a strong emotion? What was happening right before I started feeling this way? What was I thinking? Who was I with? Where was I?
So, it's about becoming a detective of our own feelings, looking for patterns.
Precisely. Become the mindful observer. Notice the physical sensations that accompany your emotions. Do you feel your heart racing before you get angry? Do your shoulders tense up when you feel anxious? These physical cues can be early warning signs that a trigger is being activated. Remember, our bodies often signal our emotional state before our minds even fully process it.
That's such valuable advice. Focusing on the physical sensations. So if I notice my chest tightening, I can pause and think, okay, what just happened? What thought came into my head?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to explore those feelings. Sometimes, triggers can point to unmet needs or unresolved issues from our past. Identifying a trigger isn't about blaming yourself or feeling bad. It's about gaining understanding and control. It's about recognizing the why behind your reactions.
It's empowering, really, to know why you're feeling a certain way rather than just being carried away by the emotion itself. So, once we've identified a potential trigger, what's the next step in moving towards a response rather than a reaction?
This is where the power of the pause comes in, which we'll discuss further. But for now, let's just say that once you recognize a trigger activating, the goal is to create a small space between the trigger and your reaction. This space, even if it's just a breath or two, allows your rational brain a chance to catch up,
A moment to breathe and think instead of just doing.
right? Instead of automatically firing off a response, be it a harsh word, a withdrawal, or an outburst, you can consciously choose a more constructive way to handle the situation. It might involve acknowledging your feeling without judgment, communicating your needs clearly, or even choosing to step away and recenter yourself before re-engaging.
So, to recap for our listeners, emotional triggers are reminders from our past that can lead to strong, often automatic, reactions in the present. Identifying them involves paying close attention to our emotional responses, noting the situations and feelings that consistently arise, and also tuning into our physical sensations.
Excellent summary, Lisa. And remember, this process takes practice. It's not about eliminating emotions, but about understanding them and managing them effectively. By identifying our triggers, we're not trying to become emotionless robots. We're trying to gain agency over our emotional lives, allowing us to respond to the world with more intention and less impulsive reaction.
It really sets the stage for being more intentional in our daily lives, doesn't it? Understanding what sets us off is the first step to choosing how we want to respond. It's about building that inner resilience we'll talk more about later in the series.
Absolutely. Think of it as mapping out the minefields so you can navigate them safely and with purpose. The more we understand our triggers, the less power they have over us.
And that's a powerful thought to end on for this episode. We've laid the groundwork for understanding what triggers us.
And in our next episode, we're going to explore that crucial space, the power of the pause. We'll discuss practical techniques for creating that pause between a trigger and your reaction, giving you the opportunity to choose your response.
I'm really looking forward to that. So join us next time as we explore the vital skill of creating space for choice.
Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Last time we decoded triggers. Now, let's explore the power of the pause.
The pause. It sounds so straightforward, doesn't it? But in the heat of an emotional moment, it can feel like the hardest thing in the world to do. Alex, maybe we can start by defining what this pause really is in the context of our emotions.
Absolutely, Lisa. Think of it as that sliver of space that exists between an event happening. That's the stimulus, and your immediate, often automatic reaction to it. It's a few seconds, sometimes even less, where you're not yet committed to an action or a thought pattern. It's a moment of conscious awareness.
So, it's not about suppressing the emotion, but about creating a gap to actually think before acting. This connects back to our trigger discussion from last episode, right? A trigger happens, and our initial impulse is to react in a way we've reacted before. The pause interrupts that automatic cycle.
Exactly. Triggers are like well-worn pathways in our minds. When we encounter a particular situation or statement, our trigger, our brain automatically takes us down that familiar path, leading to a predictable emotional response and behavior. The pause is like stepping off that path for just a moment. It's a conscious decision to say, hold on a second. Is this the only way I can respond?
I love that analogy of well-worn paths. When we don't pause, it's like our feet just know where to go, and we end up in the same old emotional landscape. But with the pause, we have the opportunity to look around and choose a new path. So, how do we actually create this pause? It feels so fleeting.
It can be especially at first. One of the most effective ways is through mindful breathing. It sounds classic, but it works because breathing is always happening. When you feel that surge of emotion, that tightening in your chest, or that heat rising, just take one slow, deep breath. Inhale, filling your lungs, and exhale, letting it all out. That single breath can be enough to create that crucial space.
Just one breath? That feels achievable. So, the next time a trigger hits, instead of immediately thinking or saying something, I can focus on my breath for a moment.
Precisely. And as you get more comfortable, you can extend that to 2 or 3 breaths. The key is to make it a deliberate action. Another technique is to mentally count. When you notice a strong emotional reaction starting, simply count to 5. This simple cognitive task shifts your focus from emotional intensity to a neutral activity.
Counting to 5, that's easy to remember. It pulls your attention away from the immediate emotional storm and gives your rational mind a chance to catch up. So, we have mindful breathing and mental counting as ways to create this space. Are there other techniques we can use to foster this power of the pause?
Certainly, one very practical approach is to introduce a physical cue. This could be as simple as gently touching your thumb to your index finger or clenching and unclenching your fists. You train yourself to associate this physical action with the intention to pause. Over time, performing that action will trigger the mental pause.
That's a great idea for building a habit. So, you find a small physical movement and you practice it when you're feeling calm, and then you start using it consciously when you feel triggered. It's like a secret signal to yourself to slow down.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of simply delaying your response. If someone asks you a question that sparks a strong reaction, you can say, that's an interesting point. Let me think about that for a moment, or I need a moment to gather my thoughts. This verbal pause gives you that real-world space to choose your words and actions more deliberately.
I can see how that would be so beneficial. Instead of blurting out something you might regret, you're demonstrating a level of control and thoughtfulness. It's about taking agency over your reactions. So, we've talked about breathing, counting, physical cues, and verbal delays. It sounds like these are all tools to help us interrupt that automatic, often unhelpful pattern.
You've got it. And the more you practice these techniques, the more natural it becomes. The pause isn't about never feeling strong emotions. It's about not being controlled by them. It's about recognizing that you have a choice in how you respond, even when you feel overwhelmed.
It's about moving from reacting, which is often impulsive and based on past conditioning, to responding, which is a more conscious and intentional act. A response is chosen, whereas a reaction just happens to you.
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. And the benefits extend far beyond just managing difficult emotions. When you consistently practice the pause, you become a more thoughtful communicator, a better problem solver, and you build stronger, more resilient relationships. Imagine a conversation where you don't immediately jump to defensiveness, but instead pause, consider the other person's perspective, and then offer a considered reply.
That changes everything. It fosters understanding and de-escalates conflict before it even starts. So, to recap for our listeners, the power of the pause is about creating a small but vital gap between a trigger and your reaction. We can cultivate this pause through several techniques: mindful breathing, mental counting to a number like 5, using a simple physical cue, or by consciously delaying our verbal response.
And the goal isn't to eliminate emotions, but to gain agency over them. By practicing the pause, We move from being at the mercy of our triggers to being the architects of our own emotional experience. It's a fundamental step in mastering your emotions and choosing your path.
It's about intentionality, isn't it? Choosing where you want to go emotionally, rather than being swept away by the current. So, the next time you feel that familiar surge of emotion, remember to breathe, count, or use your chosen physical cue. Give yourself that gift of space.
Indeed, you are not your immediate reaction. You have the power to choose. Next episode, we'll be taking our focus inward even further, exploring the wisdom held within our physical sensations and how to tune into our bodies. Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Last time we explored the vital moment between a feeling and our reaction. Today, we're diving into something essential to understanding our emotions, our bodies.
Our bodies. It's so easy to think of emotions as just happening in our heads. But our bodies are constantly communicating with us.
Precisely, Lisa. Our emotions are profoundly physical experiences. Think about it. When you're excited, your heart might pound a little faster. When you're stressed, perhaps your shoulders tense up. These are physical signals.
Oh, absolutely. I can feel that knot in my stomach just thinking about a stressful situation. So, these physical sensations are part of the emotion itself?
Exactly. They're the language of our emotions, expressed through our physical selves. Learning to listen to this language is a powerful way to understand what we're feeling and sometimes even why. Remember episode 2 on triggers? Our body sensations can often be the first clue a trigger has activated before our conscious mind fully registers it.
That makes so much sense. It's like an early warning system. If I notice that tight feeling in my chest before I get overwhelmed, I might be able to intervene.
You've got it. This episode is about welcoming your body back into the conversation of your emotions. We'll explore how emotions manifest physically and introduce techniques to tune into these sensations.
So, how do we start listening to our bodies when they speak this physical language?
The first step is simply awareness. We need to acknowledge that our bodies are communicating. Many of us have learned to ignore physical discomfort, fatigue, or unease. But these sensations are valuable information.
It's like we've learned to tune out important messages from our bodies.
That's a great way to put it. So, to begin tuning in, we need to practice mindful noticing. This isn't about judging the sensation, but simply observing it. What do you feel it? What is its quality? Is it a tightness, a warmth, a coolness, a buzzing, a hollowness?
Okay, so when I notice a strong emotion, instead of just thinking, I feel angry, I should also ask, where in my body do I feel this anger? What does it feel like?
Precisely. Imagine you're a scientist observing a phenomenon. You're just gathering data. So, if you notice anger arising, instead of getting lost in the story, pause for a moment and notice. Is there tension in your jaw? A heat in your face? A clenching in your fists? Just notice.
That sounds simple, but also a little challenging. We're so used to just reacting.
It can be challenging at first, which is why we emphasize taking a pause. This practice of mindful body awareness requires that pause. Think of it like this. Emotions are like weather patterns. Our bodies are the landscape where this weather happens. Learning to read the signs allows us to be prepared rather than caught off guard.
I like that analogy. So, beyond just noticing, are there specific techniques to deepen this connection?
Absolutely. One foundational technique is called body scanning. You systematically bring your attention to different parts of your body, from your toes all the way up to the top of your head, and notice any sensations that are present. You're not trying to change anything, just to be aware.
So, it's like giving each part of my body a little check in. Hey, foot, what are you feeling?
Exactly. You might notice areas of tension you weren't aware of. or areas of comfort. This process helps build a richer map of your internal physical landscape. Over time, you'll start to recognize patterns. You might notice that a certain type of stress consistently shows up as tightness in your neck and shoulders, or that feelings of joy often bring a sense of lightness and openness in your chest.
It's like building a personal dictionary of physical sensations and their emotional meanings.
That's a perfect way to describe it. And this connection isn't just about negative emotions. When we're happy, our bodies have distinct signals too. Perhaps a warmth spreading through your chest, a relaxed posture, a feeling of openness. Recognizing these positive physical cues can help us appreciate them more fully.
So, this practice of body awareness helps us understand when emotions are building, especially challenging ones, but also to savor the positive ones. It's a full spectrum approach.
It truly is. And as you become more attuned to your body's signals, you'll notice subtle shifts. A slight quickening of the breath when an old insecurity is triggered, a faint tremor in your hands when you're about to speak up. These are your body's messengers, offering you valuable insights.
It feels like this is building directly on what we learned about the pause. Because if I'm more aware of my body's sensations, I'm more likely to notice the need to pause before reacting.
You've hit on a key point, Lisa. These concepts are interconnected. Understanding your body's wisdom is like gaining a superpower for emotional intelligence. It provides immediate information, often before your thoughts catch up, giving you an advantage in responding rather than just reacting. It helps you become an observer of your own internal experience.
So, to recap, our emotions aren't just in our heads, they have real physical manifestations. Learning to tune into these physical sensations through mindful noticing and body scanning gives us early warnings and deeper understanding. It makes us more aware of our internal landscape and creates space for us to choose our response.
Beautifully summarized, Lisa. This connection between mind and body is profound, and by welcoming your body back into the emotional conversation, you unlock a richer, more nuanced understanding of yourself. And in our next episode, we'll take this newfound body awareness and apply it specifically to one of the most challenging emotions, anger. We'll start exploring strategies for taming that flame.
Next episode, Taming the Flame, Strategies for Anger Management.
Welcome back. Last time, we explored the wisdom of physical sensations. Now, we're diving into anger.
Anger. It can feel overwhelming. Today, we're talking about taming that flame, moving from explosive reactions to constructive responses.
Exactly, Lisa. This episode builds on previous ones. Remember decoding triggers in episode 2? Anger often has specific triggers. And in episode 3, we discussed the power of the pause, that crucial moment between stimulus and response. For anger, that pause is vital.
So, before we jump into strategies, Alex, can you remind us why anger isn't necessarily a bad emotion?
Anger is a natural human emotion. It arises when we feel threatened, wronged, or when our boundaries are crossed. Think of it like a smoke detector. It alerts you to a potential problem that needs attention. The problem isn't the smoke detector. It's what it's alerting you to and how you react.
I like that analogy. So, the emotion is the signal, not the fire. But when that signal becomes an explosion, it can cause damage. What are some common things that set that anger alarm ringing?
Identifying your anger triggers is the first step. These can be external, like someone cutting you off in traffic, or internal, like feeling inadequate. Common triggers often involve feelings of injustice, being misunderstood, unmet expectations, or feeling powerless.
So, if someone is consistently late, that could be a trigger for me because it makes me feel like my time isn't valued. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about?
Precisely. And once you recognize that trigger, say chronic lateness, you can employ the pause. That moment gives you a chance to ask yourself, what is this lateness really about for me? Is it disrespect? Instead of immediately reacting with frustration, you can choose a more measured response.
This is where episode 3, the power of the pause, really connects. So, beyond the pause, what are some active strategies for managing anger in the moment?
One of the most immediate strategies is to disengage from the triggering situation, if possible. This isn't avoidance, but creating distance to regain composure. If you're in a heated conversation, stepping away for a few minutes to cool down can make all the difference.
So, literally walking away from the situation for a short while?
Yes, and while you're disengaged, using deep breathing techniques can be incredibly calming. When we're angry, our breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Consciously slowing down your breath, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly, signals your nervous system to calm down. Imagine your breath as a gentle wave.
That sounds very accessible. Inhale calm, exhale the heat. What else can we do?
Challenging your angry thoughts. Anger often fuels itself with negative self-talk or assumptions about others. When you feel anger rising, ask yourself, is this thought realistic? What's another way to look at this situation? Instead of thinking, they always do this to annoy me, consider, perhaps they're having a difficult day. This is about shifting your perspective.
That's a powerful shift. It's moving from blaming to understanding, or at least to considering other possibilities. It takes practice, I imagine.
It absolutely does. And alongside challenging thoughts, practicing mindfulness can be crucial. Mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When you feel anger arising, notice the physical sensations, the tightness in your chest, the heat in your face. Acknowledge these sensations without labeling them as good or bad. This non-judgmental observation can reduce their intensity.
So, rather than fighting the feeling or getting swept away by it, we're simply observing it, like watching clouds drift by.
Exactly. And when you're not in the heat of the moment, there are longer-term strategies. Regular physical activity is a fantastic way to release pent-up energy and tension that can contribute to anger. Think of it as a healthy outlet.
So channeling that energy into something productive, like a run or a workout, instead of letting it erupt.
Precisely. And communicating your feelings assertively rather than aggressively is key. Assertiveness means expressing your needs and feelings clearly and respectfully. This is about using I statements. For example, instead of saying, you never listen to me, try, I feel unheard when I share my concerns and I need to feel that my perspective is understood.
That's a huge difference. I feel unheard versus you never listen. It changes the dynamic from an accusation to a statement of personal experience and a request.
It does. And building healthy boundaries is also preventative. When you clearly define your boundaries and communicate them, you reduce the likelihood of situations that trigger strong anger. Remember, boundaries are about protecting your well-being.
So, to recap the strategies, identifying triggers using the pause, disengaging from the situation, deep breathing, challenging angry thoughts, practicing mindfulness, regular physical activity, assertive communication, and setting healthy boundaries. That's quite a toolkit, Alex.
It really is. And remember, this is a journey. There will be times when anger feels overwhelming, and that's okay. The goal isn't to eliminate anger, but to manage it so it doesn't control you. We want to move from reactive rage to thoughtful response.
And those strategies, when practiced consistently, can transform how we experience and express anger. It's about regaining our power, choosing our response, and protecting our peace.
Absolutely. So, to quickly summarize what we covered today, we've explored anger as a natural signal, identified common triggers and the critical role of the pause, and then we delve into practical strategies like disengagement, deep breathing, challenging thoughts, mindfulness, physical outlets, assertive communication, and setting boundaries. These are your tools for taming the flame.
It's empowering to know we have these options, isn't it? Instead of feeling like we're at the mercy of our anger, we can learn to manage it.
Indeed. And that brings us to the end of episode 5. Next time, we'll be shifting gears to navigate the often turbulent waters of anxiety. Next episode, Navigating the Storm, Techniques for Anxiety Reduction. Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Last time we covered anger management. Now let's navigate anxiety.
Anxiety. It feels like a storm inside, sometimes without warning. Alex, what does navigating the storm truly mean?
It means finding calm and control within the experience rather than being swept away. It's about learning to steer through anxiety, acknowledging it without letting it control your actions or well-being.
So, not eliminating the storm, but managing its intensity and finding our footing.
Exactly. First, we need to understand triggers. Remember our discussion on decoding your triggers? Anxiety often has a source, a situation, a thought, a past experience. Recognizing these is key to managing your response. What triggers anxiety for people?
Uncertainty is a big one for many. Upcoming deadlines, unfamiliar social events, or general worries about the future. Performance pressure, like feeling you must be perfect, is another. And sometimes, the physical sensations themselves become triggers, creating a feedback loop.
That connects back to our talk about our body's wisdom. Anxiety has physical signs, a racing heart, shortness of breath, muscle tension. These signals tell you you're entering an anxious state. Notice them, don't ignore them.
A warning system. If we tune into those physical cues, we can intervene before anxiety escalates. So, when those sensations show up, what can we do first?
Grounding techniques help. They reconnect you to the present moment, giving stability when your mind races. A simple one is the 5-4-3-2-1 method.
Engaging our senses?
Precisely. Focus on 5 things you see, 4 you touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. See 5 objects in a room: a pen, a picture, wood grain, a rug pattern, a light switch. Feel 4 textures: shirt fabric, table surface, a book's edge, your skin.
Then hear 3 sounds: a distant car, the hum of a computer, your own breathing. Smell 2 things, perhaps coffee or lotion. And taste 1, maybe morning coffee or just the residual taste in your mouth.
This pulls your attention from anxious thoughts and anchors you in the present. It interrupts the anxious spiral. Remember the importance of creating space for choice? This grounding technique is one way to create that pause, allowing you to engage your senses instead of instantly reacting.
It retrains our attention. When our mind runs wild with what ifs, we redirect it to what's happening now. What about breath? It often gets shallow with anxiety.
Breath is a powerful tool. Slow, deep breathing signals your nervous system to relax, countering rapid, shallow breaths that can worsen anxiety.
What's a good breathing technique?
Box breathing or square breathing. Breathe in through your nose for a count of 4. Hold that breath for a count of 4. Exhale through your mouth for a count of 4, and then hold the exhale for a count of 4. Repeat this cycle.
Inhale, hold, exhale, hold, like tracing a box with your breath.
Visualize that box. Equal counts help regulate your nervous system. You're creating a calming rhythm, a steady pace. Let's try it together. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. Again, inhale, hold, exhale, hold.
Exhale slowly. I feel calmer already. So much power in something so simple. What happens with continued practice?
Practicing grounding and breathing builds your capacity for self-regulation. You create reliable tools to deploy when anxiety arises. The more you use them, the more effective they become, boosting your confidence. It's like strengthening a muscle through consistent exercise.
This fits perfectly into our idea of building your emotional toolkit. These exercises are foundational components.
Absolutely. Anxiety is a normal human experience, but persistent or overwhelming anxiety can significantly impact your life. The goal isn't to eliminate it entirely, but to change your relationship with it. It's about learning to respond to anxiety, not just react to it.
So, to recap today's episode on navigating anxiety, recognizing the physical signs your body sends is key. Grounding techniques, like the 5-4-3-2-1 method, anchor us in the present by engaging our senses. And breathing exercises, like box breathing, help calm our nervous system by creating a steady rhythm.
These are actionable strategies you can use immediately. By implementing them, you build resilience and gain a greater sense of control over your emotional state. You become an active navigator, not a passive victim of the storm.
Thank you, Alex. These techniques are truly empowering, offering practical ways to reclaim peace amidst turbulence.
Indeed, building on this focus on regulation. Next episode, we'll explore journaling for deeper reflection and clarity.
Sounds perfect. Join us for Episode 7, The Reflective Practice, a deep dive into journaling. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Today, we explore a powerful practice.
Journaling, right?
It's more than just for writers, it's incredibly useful for everyone.
Exactly, Lisa. It's about honest reflection. Your journal is a safe, confidential space to record your thoughts and feelings without judgment. This reflective practice is crucial for mastering our emotions.
Why is journaling so powerful for emotional exploration? How does writing help with recognizing triggers and pausing before reacting?
When you write, you externalize your inner experience, giving it tangible form. This brings clarity and helps you notice patterns. Remember episode 2 on triggers? Journaling lets you record what happened, how you felt, and your reaction, highlighting recurring themes.
So, it's a personal case study of my emotional life. I can see how that would reveal recurring themes. If I notice I consistently feel frustrated after a certain interaction, I can see that pattern by reviewing my entries.
Precisely. This connects to the power of the pause from episode 3. Seeing a pattern allows you to anticipate it and consciously choose to pause before reacting. Journaling captures that evolution from reaction to response.
And what about the physical sensations from episode 4? Sometimes I feel things in my body, like a knot in my stomach, and don't always connect it to a specific thought or emotion.
Journaling is perfect for that. You can write about physical feelings like a tightness in my chest, and I can't pinpoint why. As you describe your day, you might discover that tightness was linked to unspoken worry or feeling overwhelmed. Your journal helps you follow that clue to its source, like a detective of your inner world.
I love that analogy. And how does it help with managing anger and anxiety from episodes 5 and 6?
Journaling safely processes intense feelings. For anger, instead of lashing out, you can write down everything you feel, the unfairness, the frustration. Getting it on paper is cathartic, allowing you to vent harmlessly. Then, with distance, you can analyze the situation more rationally.
So it's a way to de-escalate from within. And for anxiety,
For anxiety, journaling helps pinpoint what fuels the worry. Anxiety can feel like a general cloud of what ifs. Writing them down lays them out, showing you they might be hypothetical threats. You can then challenge those thoughts more effectively, asking, is this fear realistic? Or what's the evidence?
this sounds empowering. But for someone new to journaling, where do they start? A blank page can be daunting.
That's common. Start small and be consistent. Even 5 minutes a day helps. Try free writing. Write whatever comes to mind for 3 to 5 minutes without stopping, without worrying about grammar or sense. Just let the pen move.
So, just a stream of consciousness.
Exactly. Or use prompts. You can find many online or create your own. Ask, what am I grateful for today? Or what challenged me today? And how did I handle it? Or what can I do to take care of myself right now?
Prompts give a starting point, guiding reflection rather than random thoughts.
Precisely. You can also use your journal to track your progress. In episode 8, we discussed building your emotional toolkit. Your journal can record which strategies you tried, how they felt, and the outcome. Did deep breathing help when you felt overwhelmed? Write it down. Did reframing a thought create calm? Document it.
So, it's not just processing difficult emotions, but reinforcing the positive tools we're learning.
Absolutely. As you become comfortable, you'll observe core beliefs and emotional patterns over time. This is deep work. You might notice how certain experiences shaped your reactions, and your journal provides the evidence for self-discovery. This leads into self-compassion. Understanding why you react fosters a kinder outlook.
It's like putting all the pieces together. We've learned to understand feelings, decode triggers, pause, connect with our bodies, manage emotions, and now, journaling creates a record of progress and offers deeper insights.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Journaling brings these threads together. It's a tool for self-awareness, emotional processing, and personal growth. It builds a conscious relationship with yourself, moving from automatic reactions to intentional responses, helping you choose your path.
It sounds like journaling is essential for mastering emotions, not just managing them. It's about understanding the why behind your feelings and actions.
Exactly. It's a journey of continuous discovery and a foundational practice for building emotional resilience and connection.
So, if you're looking for a concrete way to put everything you're learning into practice, this is it. Start small, be consistent, and be kind to yourself.
Well said. Next time, we'll unpack that emotional toolkit and explore specific regulation strategies. Next episode, Building Your Emotional Toolkit, Regulation Strategies Unpacked. Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Today, we're unpacking what it means to have a robust emotional toolkit, ready to deploy various regulation strategies.
That's right, Alex. This series is about moving from knee-jerk reactions to more intentional responses to our feelings. We've talked about understanding our emotions, our triggers, the crucial pause, and listening to our bodies. Today, we're essentially learning how to use all that information to manage our emotional states effectively.
Exactly, Lisa. Think of your emotional toolkit as a physical toolbox, but you have a variety of techniques. Some are for gentle adjustments, others are for more intense situations. The key is knowing which tool to pick for the job. And remember what we've discussed. The pause and body awareness are your foundational tools. Before you can effectively use any other technique, you need that moment of stillness and the connection to your physical self.
So true. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet without turning off the main water supply. You need to address the basics first. Alex, what's one of the first, perhaps simpler, tools we can add to our kit?
A fantastic starting point is mindful breathing. We've touched on this, but let's really elaborate. Mindful breathing isn't just about taking a deep breath. It's about paying attention to your breath in a non-judgmental way. When you feel overwhelmed, anxious, or angry, your breathing often becomes shallow and rapid. Bringing your attention to your breath can signal to your nervous system that it's okay to calm down.
How do we do that, though? When I'm really upset, just telling myself to breathe deeply feels impossible.
That's where the mindful or intentional part comes in. Instead of forcing a deep breath, focus on the sensation. Feel the air entering your nostrils, filling your lungs, and then gently leaving your body. You can count your breaths, inhaling for a count of 4, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4. Or you can simply focus on the rise and fall of your chest or abdomen. The goal isn't to change your breathing drastically, but to anchor your attention to it. It's like a gentle pull back to the present moment.
So, it's a way to ground yourself when your thoughts are racing or your emotions are taking over. It brings you back to your body, which we know is so important.
Precisely. And it's a tool you can use anywhere, anytime. Another incredibly powerful tool, building on our body awareness, is progressive muscle relaxation. This technique involves systematically tensing and then releasing different muscle groups in your body.
Tensing and releasing? What's the idea behind that?
When we experience stress or strong emotions, our muscles often hold on to that tension unconsciously. Progressive muscle relaxation helps you become aware of this tension and then practice letting it go. You start with your toes, for instance, scrunching them up for about 5 seconds, then releasing them completely, noticing the difference. You move up your body, calves, thighs, abdomen, chest, arms, hands, neck, and face, tensing and releasing each group.
I can see how that would be beneficial. It's a very physical way to release stored stress, and by consciously experiencing the release, you're reinforcing that feeling of relaxation.
Exactly. And once you become more adept at progressive muscle relaxation, you'll start to notice that tension building up before it even becomes a significant problem. It's a proactive way to manage physical stress. Now, let's talk about a tool that's excellent for managing racing thoughts and negative self-talk: cognitive reframing.
This sounds a bit more mental than physical.
It is cognitive reframing, also known as cognitive restructuring, involves identifying and challenging negative or unhelpful thought patterns. For example, if you find yourself thinking, "I always mess things up," you would pause, identify that thought, and then question its validity. Is it truly always the case? Can you think of times you didn't mess things up? You then reframe the thought into something more balanced and realistic, like, "I sometimes make mistakes, but I also learn from them and succeed in other areas."
So, it's about catching those automatic negative thoughts and actively changing your perspective to a more constructive one. It's about challenging your own distorted thinking.
Yes, it's a powerful way to shift your mindset. It requires practice, but the more you do it, the more automatic it becomes. Another valuable tool, especially when dealing with overwhelming emotions or difficult situations, is mindfulness meditation. While mindful breathing is a component of this, meditation is a more sustained practice of focused awareness.
We've mentioned mindfulness a few times. For listeners who might be new to it, can you explain the core idea?
Certainly, mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. When you meditate, you might focus on your breath, bodily sensations, sounds, or even your thoughts and feelings as they arise, observing them like clouds passing in the sky. You don't try to stop them or change them. You simply notice them. This practice helps you detach from overwhelming emotional experiences, seeing them as temporary states rather than defining aspects of yourself.
It sounds like it creates a mental space between you and the emotion, so you're not completely consumed by it. You can observe it without being swept away.
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. It fosters a sense of equanimity. Now, for when emotions feel particularly intense, but we want to avoid impulsive actions, the distraction technique, when used judiciously, can be a lifesaver. This isn't about avoiding your feelings permanently, but about creating a temporary break to regain composure.
What does that look like in practice?
It could be engaging in an activity that requires your full attention for a short period. This might be listening to upbeat music, doing a puzzle, calling a supportive friend to talk about something else, going for a brisk walk, or even engaging in a simple creative activity like doodling. The idea is to temporarily shift your focus away from the overwhelming emotion to something neutral or positive, allowing your emotional intensity to decrease. Remember, the key word here is temporary. Once you feel a bit calmer, it's important to return to processing the emotion.
So, It's a way to hit a pause button on the emotional storm, giving yourself breathing room before you can address what's going on. It prevents you from acting out of intense emotion.
Precisely. And a technique that's incredibly useful for understanding the root of intense feelings is emotional labeling. This is a simple, yet profound tool. It involves simply naming the emotion you're experiencing. Instead of saying, I feel bad, you try to identify the specific emotion. I feel angry. I feel disappointed. I feel anxious. I feel sad.
Why does just naming it help?
When we label an emotion, we engage the higher parts of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps regulate the more primal emotional centers. This act of identification can surprisingly reduce the intensity of the emotion. It's like taking a complex, muddled feeling and putting it into a neat little box. This makes it less of an overwhelming force and more of an observable phenomenon.
So, by giving it a name, you're essentially gaining a small measure of control over it, making it less daunting. This is all about building up our personal toolkit, isn't it? We've got mindful breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, cognitive reframing, mindfulness meditation, distraction techniques, and emotional labeling. All these are different ways to manage our internal landscape.
Exactly. And what's crucial is that not every tool will work for every situation or for every person. The power comes from having a variety of options and the skill to choose the right one. Remember, the foundation for all these tools is the pause and body awareness. When you feel an emotion starting to rise, take that moment to pause, check in with your body, and then decide which tool from your emotional toolkit might be most helpful.
It's a process of experimentation and self-discovery to find out what works best for you. And it's important to remember that building this toolkit is an ongoing journey.
Absolutely. You won't master these overnight. Be patient with yourself, practice regularly, and don't be afraid to try different techniques. The more you practice, the more natural and effective these strategies will become. You are building resilience one tool at a time.
So, to recap, we've explored several key strategies for our emotional toolkit: mindful breathing to anchor us, progressive muscle relaxation to release physical tension, cognitive reframing to challenge unhelpful thoughts, mindfulness meditation to observe emotions without judgment, distraction techniques for temporary respite, and emotional labeling to reduce intensity. All of these are built upon the crucial practices of pausing and connecting with our bodies.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Practicing these techniques regularly will empower you to move from reactive states to responsive ones, leading to greater emotional well-being and more intentional living. Next episode, the art of self-compassion. Welcome back. Last time, we explored practical strategies for emotional regulation. Now, let's tackle the art of self-compassion.
Self-compassion. It sounds lovely, Alex, but sometimes when I'm feeling overwhelmed or have made a mistake, the last thing I feel is compassionate towards myself. It often feels more like self-criticism.
And that's incredibly common, Lisa. Many of us are much quicker to offer understanding and kindness to a friend who's struggling than we are to ourselves. Self-compassion isn't about letting yourself off the hook. It's about treating yourself with the same kindness, concern, and support you'd offer someone you care about, especially during difficult times.
So, it's a different way of relating to our own challenging emotions and experiences.
Exactly. Think about it this way. When you're facing a setback or you've made a mistake, what's your usual inner dialogue? Is it gentle and understanding, or is it harsh and judgmental?
Usually, it's more along the lines of, how could you be so silly? Or you always mess things up. Definitely not kind.
Right. And that inner critic can amplify our distress, making us feel more alone and more ashamed. Self-compassion offers an alternative. It involves three core components: and the first is self-kindness.
Self-kindness. So, instead of criticizing myself, I try to be gentle?
Precisely. It's about actively soothing and comforting yourself when you're hurting rather than ignoring your pain or beating yourself up about it. When you're struggling, self-kindness means offering yourself warmth and understanding. It's like wrapping yourself in a warm blanket when you feel cold and vulnerable.
That makes sense. It's actively choosing to be nice to myself, even when I don't feel like I deserve it. What's the next component?
The second is common humanity. This is where we recognize that suffering and personal inadequacy are part of the shared human experience. We're all imperfect, and we all make mistakes. We all feel pain and disappointment at times.
Oh, that's a big one. Sometimes, when I'm feeling down about something, it feels like I'm the only one going through it. It isolates me.
And that isolation just fuels the negative feelings. Recognizing common humanity helps us realize we're not alone in our struggles. It shifts the perspective from, why is this happening to me, to this is a difficult human experience, and it's happening to many people. It dissolves that feeling of being uniquely flawed.
So, instead of feeling like a failure, I can see myself as a human being experiencing a difficult moment, just like everyone else.
Exactly. And this brings us to the third component, mindfulness. This isn't about emptying your mind, but about observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's about acknowledging your pain, your struggles, your negative emotions, without suppressing them or getting completely carried away by them.
So, self-kindness is being gentle, common humanity is remembering I'm not alone, and mindfulness is being aware of my feelings without getting stuck in them.
You've got it. And it's this combination that makes self-compassion so powerful, especially after working on anger and anxiety. When we felt angry, we learned to pause and choose our response. When we felt anxious, we found ways to reduce that storm. Self-compassion is what helps us do that for ourselves, when we are the source of our own discomfort, or when we simply need a gentle hand.
I can see how useful this would be. If I've reacted poorly in a situation, my first instinct might be to get angry with myself. But if I can apply self-compassion, I can acknowledge, okay, that was difficult, I wasn't my best self, and that's understandable because situations like this are tough. How can I learn from this with kindness?
That's the perfect application. It allows us to acknowledge our mistakes without wallowing in shame, and then to learn and grow. It creates emotional resilience. When we don't beat ourselves up after a failure, we're more likely to pick ourselves up and try again. It's a foundation for lasting well-being.
How can we practically cultivate this? It sounds simple in concept, but difficult in practice.
It does take practice like any new skill. One way is through self-compassion breaks. When you notice you're suffering, deliberately pause and offer yourself these three elements. You might say to yourself, for instance, this is a moment of suffering. That's mindfulness. Then, suffering is a part of life, or I'm not alone in feeling this way. That's common humanity. And finally, may I be kind to myself, or may I give myself the compassion I need? That's self-kindness.
So, a quick internal dialogue. This is hard. Others feel this too. Be kind to yourself.
Exactly. You can also try writing a compassionate letter to yourself, as if you were writing to a dear friend who is going through what you are. What would you say to them? What words of support and understanding would you offer? Then, try to offer those same words to yourself.
That's a great exercise. It forces you to step outside your own head for a moment and see things from a different, kinder perspective.
Another technique is to notice your critical thoughts and consciously reframe them with compassionate statements. For example, if you catch yourself thinking, I'm so lazy for not getting this done, you could reframe it with, it's understandable that I'm finding it hard to start this task right now. Perhaps I need a moment of rest or a different approach.
It's about actively challenging that inner critic and replacing its harshness with understanding. I think many of us have internalized a very critical parent or caregiver, and we play that role for ourselves.
That's a very insightful way to put it. Self-compassion is about developing a new, kinder inner voice. It's a practice that helps us navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with greater grace and resilience. It complements our previous discussions beautifully. Remember when we talked about the power of the pause? Self-compassion is applying that pause to our own inner experience, offering kindness instead of judgment.
And it's so crucial for emotional well-being. If we're constantly beating ourselves up, it erodes our self-esteem and makes it harder to cope with anything. But if we can meet our difficulties with kindness, we build an inner strength that can weather any storm.
Precisely. So, to recap, self-compassion involves three key elements. Self-kindness, which is about being warm and understanding towards ourselves rather than critical. Common humanity, recognizing that suffering and imperfection are part of the shared human experience. And mindfulness, observing our pain without judgment. These three together create a powerful antidote to self-criticism and a pathway to greater emotional resilience.
It's about treating ourselves with the same care and understanding we would naturally extend to someone we love. It's a fundamental aspect of mastering our emotions, not by suppressing them, but by relating to them with profound kindness.
Absolutely. And the more we practice self-compassion, the more naturally we'll be able to navigate our emotional landscape, turning reactions into responses and judgments into understanding.
This has been incredibly helpful, Alex. It feels like a missing piece for truly mastering our emotions.
It really is, Lisa. Next time, we'll explore how to deepen our connections with others by cultivating empathy and understanding. Next episode, Deepening Connections, Empathy and Understanding Others. Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. We're on episode 10, and it's a special one. We've spent a lot of time looking inward, understanding ourselves, our triggers, and our emotional responses. Now, we're turning our focus outward to deepen our connections with others.
That's right, Alex. It feels like a natural progression. Once we have a better handle on our own inner world, we can start to truly understand what's going on with the people around us. This episode is all about empathy and really connecting with others.
Absolutely. Think back to episode 2, where we talked about decoding your triggers. Remember how understanding what sets off a reaction in you was the first step to managing it? That same principle applies to understanding others. When we can recognize that someone else might be reacting from a place of their own triggers or past experiences, it's much easier to respond with understanding rather than judgment.
So, it's like building a bridge from your own emotional experience to theirs. Instead of just seeing their behavior, you're trying to understand the feeling behind it.
Exactly. And this is where emotional intelligence really shines. Emotional intelligence isn't just about managing your own emotions. It's also about recognizing and understanding emotions in others. It's that ability to pick up on cues, both spoken and unspoken, and to truly grasp what someone else might be feeling.
What are some ways we can actively build this empathetic understanding? It can be tough when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed yourself.
That's a great point, Lisa. And it reinforces why building your internal emotional regulation skills, like those we discussed in episode 8, is so crucial. When you're better regulated, you have more emotional bandwidth to focus on someone else. One of the most powerful tools for empathy is active listening.
Active listening. I've heard that term a lot. What does it really mean in practice, beyond just not interrupting?
Great question. Active listening means you're fully present with the speaker. You're not just waiting for your turn to talk or thinking about what you're going to say next. It involves giving your undivided attention, both verbally and non-verbally. Nodding, making eye contact, and giving brief verbal affirmations like, I see, or uh-huh, all signal that you're engaged.
So, it's about showing them you're truly hearing them, not just processing the words.
Precisely. And a key component of active listening is reflective listening. This is where you paraphrase what the other person has said and ask clarify questions. For example, you might say, "So, if I understand correctly, you're feeling frustrated because the project deadline was moved up unexpectedly?" This not only ensures you've understood them correctly, but it also makes the speaker feel heard and validated.
That's so helpful. It's like you're holding up a mirror to their feelings and thoughts, letting them see if you've captured them accurately. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of communication.
It really does. And it moves us beyond immediate reactions. Instead of reacting to an angry outburst with defensiveness, reflecting on what they're saying, it sounds like you're really feeling unheard right now, can de-escalate the situation and open the door for genuine understanding. This also taps into perspective taking.
Perspective taking.
That sounds a bit more challenging. How do we step into someone else's shoes?
It can be challenging, but it's incredibly rewarding. Perspective taking is the ability to imagine what it's like to be in another person's situation, to see the world from their point of view. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them or condone their actions, but rather you're trying to understand their internal experience.
So, it's about asking why might they be feeling this way, based on what you know about them or the situation.
Exactly. And remembering that everyone has a unique inner landscape, shaped by their own history, beliefs, and current circumstances. What might seem like a minor inconvenience to you could be something that triggers a deep-seated insecurity or past hurt for someone else. That goes back to understanding their triggers, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's like we're weaving together all the threads we've explored in this series. Our own emotional awareness, our triggers, our regulation skills, they all empower us to be more empathetic.
They are the foundation. And when we can practice empathy, it doesn't just benefit the other person, it profoundly enriches our own lives. Stronger, more authentic connections lead to better relationships, increased trust, and a greater sense of belonging. It's a win-win.
It's about moving from a world where we're just reacting to the people around us to one where we're consciously and kindly responding. It fosters a kinder, more understanding environment for everyone.
And remember, empathy isn't a fixed trait. It's a skill that can be developed and strengthened with practice. So, make a conscious effort to practice active listening and perspective taking in your daily interactions. Even small steps can make a big difference.
I find that knowing it's a skill makes it less daunting. It's not about being perfect at it overnight. It's about consistent effort.
Precisely. So, to recap, we've explored how understanding our own emotional landscape, our triggers, and our regulation skills are the bedrock for developing empathy. We've discussed active listening, which involves full presence and demonstrating understanding, and reflective listening, where we paraphrase and clarify to ensure we've truly heard the other person. We also delved into perspective taking, the crucial ability to step into someone else's shoes and understand their point of view. By practicing these skills, we can deepen our connections, build stronger relationships, and contribute to a more understanding world.
It's a beautiful synergy, isn't it? Mastering our emotions allows us to connect more authentically with others, and those connections, in turn, can enrich our own emotional well-being.
It's a cycle of growth and connection. We've covered so much ground in understanding our inner world. Next time, we're going to focus on how this emotional mastery builds resilience, equipping us to navigate life's inevitable challenges with strength and grace.
Next episode, Emotional Resilience, the foundation for lasting well-being.
Welcome back. Last time we covered empathy and understanding others. Now let's tackle emotional resilience.
That's right, Alex. It feels like we've been collecting all these amazing tools and techniques, and now we're about to see how they create a strong, sturdy structure for our emotional lives. Resilience is that ability to bounce back, isn't it?
Exactly. Think of it like a tree. A strong tree can withstand strong winds and heavy storms without breaking. It might sway, its leaves might rustle and fall, but its roots are deep and its core is solid. Emotional resilience is very much the same for us as human beings. It's not about never feeling difficult emotions, but about how we navigate them and recover.
So, how do the things we've discussed, like identifying our triggers and using the pause, contribute to this resilience?
Those are foundational, Lisa. Remember we talked about decoding your triggers? Knowing what sets off a strong emotional reaction is the first step. If you know that talking about finances makes you anxious, you can prepare yourself for that conversation. You can consciously decide to take a pause, as we discussed, before you react. This pause is critical for resilience.
The pause. I love that one. It's like creating a little buffer zone between the trigger and your initial reaction. Instead of just automatically lashing out or withdrawing, you have a moment to breathe and choose how to respond.
Precisely. And we explored the wisdom of physical sensations. When you're building resilience, being attuned to your body is crucial. If you feel a tightness in your chest when a stressful email arrives, that's your body signaling that your stress response is kicking in. Recognizing that physical cue allows you to use regulation strategies before the emotion overwhelms you.
That makes so much sense. It's like your body is sending you an early warning system. Then we can turn to those regulation strategies we unpacked.
Yes, those strategies, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, grounding techniques, they're the active tools in our resilience toolkit. When you feel that tightness in your chest, or your heart starts racing due to anxiety, you can actively employ a technique to calm your nervous system. This isn't about suppressing the feeling, but about managing its intensity so it doesn't derail you.
And it's not just about managing the negative, is it? We also talked about self-compassion. How does being kind to yourself help build resilience?
That's a beautiful connection, Lisa. When we experience setbacks, or when we react in ways we later regret, our inner critic can be incredibly harsh. Self-compassion acts as a counterbalance. Instead of beating ourselves up, which erodes our resilience, we offer ourselves understanding and kindness. This allows us to learn from mistakes without getting stuck in shame. It allows us to forgive ourselves and move forward with greater strength.
So, it's a combination. Recognizing our triggers, using the pause to choose our response, listening to our bodies, actively using regulation techniques when needed, and treating ourselves with kindness throughout the process. That sounds like a robust framework for resilience.
It is. And think about how these pieces fit together. You identify a trigger. You feel a physical sensation. You recognize it's a sign of a difficult emotion. You consciously take a pause. You then choose to implement a regulation strategy, perhaps deep breathing. And as you do this, you offer yourself compassion for being in this uncomfortable moment. This entire sequence builds your capacity to handle future challenges. Each time you successfully navigate a difficult emotional experience using these strategies, you are strengthening your resilience muscle.
It's like practicing. The more you practice identifying triggers, using the pause, and employing regulation, the more automatic and effective these responses become.
Exactly. And this practice builds a sense of internal stability. When life throws curveballs, and it will, resilient individuals don't crumble. They might feel the impact, they might need time to process, but they have the inner resources to recover. It's about developing a stable core, much like that strong tree we talked about.
This also helps us understand others better, doesn't it? We touched on empathy and understanding others. When we're resilient, we're less likely to project our own emotional distress onto others.
That's a really important point, Lisa. When our own emotional cup is overflowing with unmanaged distress, it's hard to be fully present and empathetic for someone else. By building our own resilience, we create a more stable emotional ground from which we can offer genuine connection and support to others. We can understand their triggers and reactions without immediately becoming reactive ourselves.
So, resilience isn't just a personal survival skill, it's also a key ingredient for healthy relationships and effective communication.
Absolutely. It's the foundation for much of our well-being. When we can manage our emotional responses effectively, we experience less chronic stress, we make better decisions, and we have more energy to pursue our goals and enjoy life. It allows us to move from a reactive state, where we're constantly battling our emotions and external circumstances, to a responsive state, where we can engage with life thoughtfully and purposefully.
It really is about shifting from being at the mercy of our emotions to being in the driver's seat.
Precisely. And this capacity for response, rather than reaction, is what allows us to live with greater intention. We can ask ourselves, what do I want to do here? Rather than just being carried away by the tide of our feelings. This conscious choice is the hallmark of emotional resilience. It's about building a robust inner system that can handle life's inevitable ups and downs with greater grace and stability.
So, to recap what we've covered in this episode, emotional resilience is our ability to navigate challenges and bounce back. It's built by integrating several key practices we've discussed: understanding our triggers, utilizing the pause for mindful response, staying connected to our body's signals, actively using emotional regulation strategies when needed, and practicing self-compassion so we can learn and grow without self-criticism. These elements work together to create a stable emotional foundation, enabling us to respond to life's events with greater control and intention, which in turn benefits our relationships and overall well-being.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Building emotional resilience is an ongoing practice, not a destination. It's about consistently applying these tools, being patient with ourselves, and celebrating the progress we make along the way. The ability to bounce back, to adapt, and to maintain a sense of inner stability. That's the essence of resilience, and it's within everyone's reach. Thanks for listening. Welcome back. Today we're talking about living with intent.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Master Your Emotions. Stop reacting, start responding. Last time, we explored emotional resilience, building the inner strength to bounce back from challenges. Today, in our 12th episode, we're diving into the powerful practice of living with intent. This is all about how we can bring everything we've learned into our daily lives, making conscious choices rather than simply reacting to whatever comes our way.
That's right, Lisa. We've spent so much time understanding our emotions, our triggers, and building tools for regulation. Now, the real magic happens when we apply those to everyday situations. It's about shifting from autopilot to conscious steering. Think about it. So much of our day, we're running on habits, on ingrained reactions. Our goal now is to inject intention into those habits.
Autopilot. I like that analogy, Alex. It's like driving a familiar route. You can practically do it with your eyes closed. But that also means you might miss important signs or opportunities along the way. Living with intent, then, is about that moment where you consciously choose to pay attention, to look around, and to make a deliberate decision about where you're going and how you're getting there.
Exactly. Let's start with a common scenario. Imagine you're stuck in traffic. For many of us, the automatic reaction is frustration, maybe even anger. Our shoulders tense up, our jaw clenches, and we start fuming. That's a pure reaction. Now, how can we bring intent into that situation?
Instead of just letting that frustration consume us, we could pause, right? We can acknowledge the feeling. Okay, I'm feeling frustrated because I'm stuck in traffic, without letting it dictate our entire state. Then, we can intentionally choose a different response. Maybe we decide to use that time to listen to a podcast, like this one. Or perhaps we call a friend we haven't spoken to in a while, using the time productively.
Precisely. You've recognized the trigger, the traffic, And instead of reacting with habitual anger, you've paused and chosen an intentional response. That might be listening to something educational or connecting with someone. It's about asking yourself, what is the most helpful or constructive thing I can do right now, given this situation? This isn't about being perfect. It's about making a conscious effort.
And it's not just about negative situations. We can bring intent to positive ones too. For example, when a colleague shares some good news, our automatic response might be a quick great, and then moving on. But with intent, we can truly engage. We can ask follow-up questions, express genuine enthusiasm, and really celebrate their success. This deepens our connection and shows we're present.
That's a fantastic point, Lisa. It applies to our relationships. When a loved one is sharing something important, instead of looking at our phone or thinking about our to-do list, we can intentionally focus our attention. We can lean in, make eye contact, and truly listen. That intentional act of presence can make a world of difference. It's a practice, and like any practice, it gets easier with repetition.
So, to summarize this part, living with intent means recognizing a situation, acknowledging our initial emotional response without judgment, and then consciously choosing how we want to engage. It's taking that space we learned about, the pause, and filling it with purpose. Instead of, oh, this happened, so I feel this way and I'll do this, it becomes, this happened, I notice my feeling, and I choose to respond this way.
Beautifully put. Let's break down some practical ways to cultivate this intentional living. One powerful method is through mindful observation of our daily routines. So many of our actions are on autopilot. Think about your morning. Do you grab coffee and scroll through your phone? Do you rush through breakfast? We can begin by simply observing these patterns without judgment. Just notice, here I am, automatically reaching for my phone.
And then,
And then we can introduce a small, intentional shift. Maybe the first 5 minutes after waking are dedicated to stretching or to simply noticing the light coming through the window without any other distractions. Or during breakfast, instead of scrolling, we intentionally focus on the taste and texture of our food, appreciating the nourishment. These aren't grand gestures. They're small, consistent choices.
it's about micro moments of choice. And I imagine this extends to our communication. We touched on listening, but what about expressing ourselves? My initial reaction might be to blurt something out, especially if I'm feeling defensive or upset.
Absolutely. In conversations, before responding, we can ask ourselves, what is my intention here? Do I want to be understood? Do I want to understand them? Do I want to build connection or create distance? If your intention is to connect, you might choose to phrase your words more gently or to ask clarifying questions rather than making accusations. This is the essence of responding with purpose.
So, it's like having a compass during communication. Instead of just letting the wind blow us wherever, we can consciously set a direction. We want to move towards understanding, towards connection, towards clarity.
Exactly. And this takes practice, especially in challenging conversations. Remember when we talked about emotional resilience? This is where it truly shines. When you're in a heated discussion, your emotional resilience helps you stay grounded, and your intentionality guides you to choose words that de-escalate rather than inflame. It's about being in control of your own contribution to the interaction.
Alex, this idea of living with intent also combats that feeling of just being tossed around by life circumstances. It puts us back in the driver's seat, even when the road is bumpy.
It truly does. Another way to foster intentionality is through setting clear intentions for your day or even for specific activities. Before you start a task, take a moment to define what you want to accomplish and how you want to approach it. For example, before starting a work project, you might set an intention to be focused and efficient or to collaborate effectively with your team.
And what happens when we get derailed from that intention? Because life happens.
That's a crucial question. When we get derailed, the intentional approach is to notice it without harsh self-criticism. Okay, I intended to be focused, but I got pulled into social media. That's understandable. Then we gently guide ourselves back to our intention. It's not about achieving perfection, but about consistent, mindful effort. It's like a gentle redirection, not a harsh reprimand.
So, it's about self awareness, conscious choice, and a commitment to aligning our actions with our values and goals, even in the small moments. And it sounds like it builds on everything we've discussed in the series.
Absolutely. From understanding your emotional landscape to taming anger and anxiety, journaling, self compassion, and building resilience. All of those skills are the foundation upon which intentional living is built. They give you the awareness and the tools to choose your response. Without them, you're simply reacting.
It's the difference between being a passenger in your own life and being the captain of your ship. You're navigating, making decisions, and steering towards your desired destination rather than just drifting.
Precisely. And as we approach the end of our series, this concept of living with intent is the bridge to making this a sustainable, lifelong practice. It's not a destination, it's an ongoing way of being. It's about consistently asking yourself, is this how I want to show up? Is this choice serving me and my values?
So, to recap, living with intent is about moving from automatic reactions to conscious, purposeful responses. We do this by being aware of our routines, setting deliberate intentions, choosing our communication style, and gently guiding ourselves back when we stray. It's about actively participating in our own lives, making choices that align with who we want to be.
And that leads us beautifully into our final episode, where we'll be exploring your entire emotional journey and reinforcing the commitment to continuous growth.
Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Master Your Emotions. This is episode 13, Your Journey Forward.
And what a journey it's been, Alex. We've explored the depths of our emotional landscape, learned to decode our triggers, and discovered the incredible power of pausing before we react.
That's right. Over the past 12 episodes, we've built a robust toolkit for understanding and managing our emotions. We started by diving into the emotional landscape itself, recognizing that our feelings are signals, not something to be feared or suppressed.
Remember how we talked about emotions being like the weather? Sometimes a gentle breeze, sometimes a raging storm, but always temporary and always carrying a message. And we learned how to read those messages by decoding our triggers.
Indeed, triggers are those specific events, thoughts, or situations that tend to spark a strong emotional response in us. Understanding them is like having a map to our own emotional reactions. Once we knew our triggers, we unlocked the secret of the pause.
Ah, the pause. That simple, yet profound, space between a trigger and our reaction. It's in that pause where we can choose to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. It's where our agency truly lies.
And where does that agency find its grounding? In our bodies, of course. We explored the wisdom of physical sensations, learning to connect with how our emotions manifest physically. Recognizing tension, a racing heart, or butterflies can be an early warning system.
That was so insightful. From there, we tackled some of the more challenging emotions head on. We learned strategies for anger management, how to tame that flame, and techniques for anxiety reduction, navigating those turbulent storms.
Absolutely. And to support these regulation strategies, we delved into the practice of journaling, a reflective space to process our experiences. We discovered how to build our emotional toolkit with a variety of regulation techniques.
And one of the most beautiful gems we uncovered was the art of self-compassion. Learning to be kind to ourselves, especially when we're struggling with difficult emotions, is so vital. It's the foundation for healing.
It truly is. Building on that inner kindness, we then looked outward, exploring how to deepen our connections with others through empathy and understanding. When we understand our own emotions better, we can better understand those around us.
This paved the way for developing emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from adversity and maintain well-being. It's like building an inner strength that can withstand life's inevitable challenges.
And in our last episode, episode 12, we brought it all together by talking about living with intent. This is about consciously choosing how we respond to situations, aligning our actions with our values and goals, rather than being swept away by immediate feelings.
So, to recap our entire series, we've learned to understand our emotional landscape, decode our triggers, and utilize the power of the pause. We've connected with our bodies, managed challenging emotions like anger and anxiety, and embraced reflective practices like journaling.
We've empowered ourselves with regulation strategies, practiced the crucial skill of self-compassion, and learned to build stronger connections through empathy. All of this contributes to our emotional resilience, allowing us to live with greater intent and purpose.
It's a comprehensive approach, Alex, and it's not about perfection, is it? It's about continuous growth.
Precisely, Lisa. This final episode, your emotional journey forward, is a testament to that. Mastering your emotions isn't a destination you arrive at. It's an ongoing, evolving process. It's a commitment to continuous growth.
So, how do we keep this momentum going?
The next step, listeners, is to integrate these practices into your daily life. Make them habits, like brushing your teeth or drinking your morning coffee. When a challenging emotion arises, don't just remember the techniques. Feel them in your body, practice the pause, and choose your response.
Think of it like learning to play a musical instrument. You don't become a virtuoso overnight. It takes consistent practice, patience, and a willingness to keep learning and refining your skills. Our emotional intelligence is the same.
That's a perfect analogy, Lisa. And remember, there will be days when it feels harder than others. On those days, lean into self-compassion. Acknowledge that you're human, facing human challenges, and extend yourself the same kindness you would offer a dear friend.
It's about progress, not perfection. If you have a setback, that's an opportunity to learn, not a reason to give up. Analyze what happened, apply your toolkit, and move forward with renewed understanding.
This journey of emotional mastery is incredibly rewarding. It leads to healthier relationships, greater personal fulfillment, and a profound sense of inner peace. You gain the power to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and resilience.
It empowers you to respond to life's tapestry, not just react to individual threads. You become the artist of your own emotional experience.
So, as we conclude this series, we want to celebrate you, our listeners. You've invested time and energy into your own growth, and that is a powerful act of self-care and self-respect. Pat yourselves on the back.
You've equipped yourselves with invaluable tools. Use them wisely, practice them diligently, and continue to explore the fascinating world of your own inner landscape. Your emotional journey may be continuous, but the skills you've gained here are your sturdy companions.
This has been a truly incredible experience producing this series for you. We've poured our knowledge and passion into these episodes, and we hope they've served as a valuable guide.
And we hope that what you've learned here will continue to blossom in your lives, bringing you more peace, more understanding, and more joy. Embrace the ongoing process of becoming your best, most emotionally intelligent self.
Thank you for joining us on this transformative journey. It's been an honor to explore the path of emotional mastery with you.
Thanks for listening to the series.